We all need a bit of support from time to time, and we're familiar with the importance of supporting plants like fruit trees and perennial climbers like grapes and kiwi fruit. I'm going to show you 3 of my favourite methods that you can knock up really quickly to keep your veggies up off the ground. Pumpkins are a vine. So by creating a simple frame to keep them up off the ground, you're maximising your garden space. Now, this isn't going to work for larger varieties that produce fruit above about 1 kilogram, but it's perfect for these peepo varieties. This one is a spaghetti squash, and its fruit only get to the size of about a large apple. The whole family of cucurbits like a well-drained soil. So using a cultivator, I'm fluffing it up and creating mounds to ensure that their feet stay nice and dry. I'm building the structure out of bamboo because it's strong and it's lightweight. And the great thing is it's been grown and harvested here at the gardens, so it's free. It's important to build your structure at an angle of about 30 to 45 degrees and not vertical, because these vines are more leaners rather than climbers. Now I've made the structure about 2 metres long by 2 metres high. A structure like this should support 2 to 4 plants planted on either side. Now that's a lot of weight when the plant gets mature, so you need to make sure that your horizontals are tied on nice and tight. I've made a gap of about 1/2 metre between each horizontal. Now to tie them on, I use a hitch knot, which is simply getting your twine, wrapping it around the bamboo, creating an eyelet, and then feeding it through. And that'll hold on nice and tight to the actual bamboo. Then bring your horizontal up and just lash it on. And I like to finish with a shoelace knot. Now the great thing about using these knots is they're strong, yet they're easy to undo at the end of the season. These peepo pumpkins will be up in a few weeks and starting to spread their way across this structure, and I should be harvesting fruit off it early in the new year. Another vegetable crop that benefits from support are beans, specifically climbing beans. For this structure, you'll need some hardwood stakes, 8 to be exact, 2 sheets of Rio, and a bit of twine just to tie it all together. Now start off by putting 2 stakes in. One there and one there. And then get your bit of Rio and place it in between. That's a good spacing. Now I get my other 2 bits of stake, put one just in front of it to pinch it in together. Then just knock them in so they're nice and sturdy. Now this structure needs to be a lot more rigid and a lot more solid than the bamboo one behind me. That's because here I'm planting magic beans. Not really magic beans, scarlet runner beans, otherwise known as the 7-year bean. They're a perennial bean, which means they'll grow up in spring, bear fruit over the warmer months, die back in the winter, only to re-emerge the next spring. So once you've got your stakes on either side, it's time to pinch them together. I just lash a bit of twine around. You can use something a little bit more solid, but I found that this is enough. Tie it off. And then the same on the other side. Now, if you're growing a crop of climbing peas or some of the smaller climbing bean varieties like lazy housewife, then a single sheet constructed like this should be enough. But because I'm planting perennial beans that get very big, I like to put a second sheet in parallel to this one to create a bean sandwich. By creating this cavity, the plants can grow up in a nice open manner and cover this trellis. And because the beans all hang down on the inside and outside, they're easy to pick. Other than a stake, this would have to be one of the most simple yet effective support structures. All it is a bit of wire mesh tied off to itself to create a cylinder. Now I find these fairly self-supporting if you just dig them in a bit like that. But if you're in a windy site, you might want to use a wooden stake just to hold them in check. Now normally I'd grow climbing peas in a structure like this, but today I'm going to plant some more beans. Kentucky wonder beans to be exact. Now these are annual beans, so they'll grow up, they'll bear over the summer, and then they'll die off completely in the winter. And at that stage, you can just rip your structure out of the ground, store it in your shed, ready for next year. So instead of one pumpkin taking up this whole bed, we've created enough room for 3 crops by making good use of the vertical space. And we've created good airflow, which means healthy plants. And your delicious fruit is up off the ground, away from hungry mouths of pests like slugs and snails. See you next time.